President Obama's promise to review the American military's policy of don't ask, don't tell, which allows gay people to serve if they don't reveal their sexual orientation, means that abuse in the forces has become a front-page issue. It seems paradoxical, but a particularly shocking story is given by a veteran, a naval veteran, Joseph Rocha, who says he was subjected to continued abuse by his commanding officer in a canine unit, including being force-fed dog food, being strapped to a chair, left inside a kennel, and various sexually degrading things as well. Congressman Joe Sestak represents the 7th District of Pennsylvania, and he's now championing Mr. Rocha's cause all the more because he is himself a retired admiral. Hello, Congressman Sestak.
Rod, it's good evening out there. It's good to talk to you.
Good to have you with us. Now, tell me, this is a ghastly, ghastly business, but don't ask, don't tell has been around for quite a while in the military, hasn't it? Wasn't it President Carter who really instituted don't ask, don't tell?
Actually, it was during President Clinton's first year. And to be honest, I was a Navy captain at the time, and I remember Navy Admiral said to me, what do you think about this new policy? And I said, I think in a few months we'll have the Supreme Court of the United States declare it unconstitutional. I didn't understand then why it wouldn't, and I don't understand it now. I've been to war with those that by public surveys we know a certain percentage of my aircraft carrier battle group, for example, in the war in Afghanistan, were gay. And how can I come home, I tell people, and not say they should have equal rights, should not have equal rights after having served our country? And so I think this example that you've brought up is just one more step towards finally correcting something which is just not wrong, which is wrong.
Yeah, I think there's a Freedom of Information report on this, isn't there? And it's not at all clear what actually happened because so much of it's blacked out.
Well, there's actually a whole investigation that was done 2 years ago when someone did report what occurred, dragging him through dog feces, handcuffing him, making him do oral sex or simulate doing oral sex. And then what most perturbed me when it came to my attention is this investigation done by the Navy had 97 counts of abuse, not only of this young man, but of others. And it wasn't just because he was allegedly gay. It was a rogue unit where there wasn't good order and discipline. In fact, there were a series of recommendations for discipline and accountability, and no action was taken for 2 years. In fact, the chief petty officer in charge was promoted. So my involvement when it came to my attention was to speak with the chief of naval operations, send a letter over there and say, look, if anything, we need accountability for this, not just of that person who oversaw the abuse, but who in the chain of command knew about this investigation and did not institute the recommendations for accountability that had been offered.
Can you explain a bit more about how the policy works in practice? Because surely if you say, don't ask, don't tell, then all men and all women in the service have the right to be treated equally.
They do have the right to be treated equally, but you are actually asking an individual to live a lie. That person is not allowed to be overt about their sexual orientation. And so you actually are forcing them against all good ideals of having people be honest and forthright to say, just don't tell me. And if you do, I will dismiss you from the service. Why?
So Corporal Klinger in MASH by cross-dressing was in breach of regulations, was he?
Say that again, please.
Was Corporal Klinger in MASH in breach of Army regulations?
Those was way back then. Back in those days, if you back in those days, if someone did come forward and say they were homosexual or gay at the time, that's what they said in those days, he would have been dismissed. Yes.
Uh-huh. So really, what you're saying is, as a commanding officer or anywhere in the line, this was a very difficult policy, or this is a very difficult policy to implement.
Well, it is. I mean, first off, you know that there's individuals we are kicking out of the service once they do say they're gay, that we're losing quality people who would rather stay. Second, we know, again, that these certain percentages there are being forced to, as I said, live a lie. My issue above all is this. I've watched our military, when I joined up during the Vietnam War, integrate men and women of color. Then I watched them integrate women into combat roles. I have no doubt that we can integrate people of different gender orientation into our units. I had 5,000 youth on my aircraft carrier. Their average age was 19 and a half. They just don't care about this issue. This is a holdover. And so my take on this is any good commander worth his or her salt can instill good order and discipline in changing a policy that forces Americans to lie about who and what they are. To what end? And there is no good end for having that ban.
Congressman, thank you for speaking to us.